Welcome into this Wednesday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner, JP Acosta, Kyle Long. Today's show, we are rolling through our tiers. Power tiers, not power rankings, power tiers. We'll get to those. We are also doing then at the end our franchise quarterback tiers. I wrote a piece on CBSSports.com coming out today, basically looking at all the rookie contract quarterbacks, how they're doing, grading them through the first 3 games this season. It's got to be honest. The grades aren't good. I don't think I gave anyone higher than a B, and even that felt generous. A lot of Ds, a lot of Fs from these rookie contract quarterbacks. So we'll get to that towards the end, and then also our Thursday night football preview. But we're going to start with our first off the ball segment, where the big news from yesterday, Jaxson Dart. Kyle, he's starting.
Yep,
Week 4 against the Chargers. It's happening. I'm going to give the floor to you, Kyle. How excited are we to see this guy?
Well, it started off as an irrational excitement about this guy. You know, you find there's always that random player, and you guys are in this world where you can either fall in love or fall in hate with a player. And for whatever reason, I just had some sort of gravitational pull towards Jaxson Dart. And when Mike and I were solo doing the pod, we were down there at the Super Bowl, and one of the asks of our producer that day was, let's predict the next Super Bowl champions, you know, for over the course of the next 5 years. And I forget which year it was, and you know me, JP. I'm going to say 100 things, 40 of them are serious, 60 of them you're going to have to decipher yourself. And that's, you know, it's called edutainment. I'm here to educate a little bit and, you know, just be an idiot the other time. Well, I picked it was Ravens, Eagles, Bills, and then Jaxson Dart. And this was pre-draft. And I was like, look, he's talented enough to get it done and just dumb enough to not think about it and just go do it. And if you look historically, and I'm not saying he's a dumbass. What I'm saying is he's not going to overthink it. I mean, my man's out there just playing football, okay? They got to tell him to slide. Those are the kind of quarterbacks that I like. And when I got in the league, I played with Cutler, and Cutler was one of these confident guys, talented, confident in his arm, had a plan. When his head hit the pillow, he was able to fall asleep on Saturday nights. I don't want the guy who's up all night on Saturday. I don't want the guy who's trying to reinvent. I just want the guy to go do what he's done his whole career. And when I watched him at Ole Miss, he was fun to watch. And he may not have all the intangibles that a guy like, or the physical traits like a guy like Cam Ward, or, you know, the size of Josh Allen. But this dude can run. This dude can throw. He's going to give opportunities to his great players on the outside. Obviously, with Scatterbo now at the running back position, it's going to be a fun, young backfield for the Giants. And they've already got a fun D-line and a fun back end of the defense. But you get some excitement on offense outside of just Malik Neighbors, and it's a win-win for the Giants. And quite frankly, this is what Brian Daboll needs to do at this point in his tenure as the New York Football Giants head coach, because the time for bullshitting is done. And this is what the fans have clamored for. They want to see Jaxson Dart. They're going to get their opportunity to see him this week.
I'm really worried about Jaxson Dart, especially this week against what might be the best defense in the NFL. But like you said, it felt like Brian Daboll had to do this. It feels like this is a moment, like, you can't have Russ out there throwing the ball through the uprights again. You can't keep doing that and expect, one, people to show up for the game, and two, your receivers to actually play confidently, knowing that their quarterback's going to at least try and get them the ball. The Russ experiment is over, but I am worried about this stretch of games for Jaxson Dart. Of course, got the Chargers on Sunday. The next week, you go to the Saints, which might be the easiest matchup, but the Saints still very tough, very physical defense. Then you have 2 Eagles games and a Broncos game, like in that 3-game stretch. Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, and then I think you had the 49ers after that. Like, this is not an easy stretch of games by any means. Of course, you knew Dart was going to start sooner rather than later, but I am a little worried, especially because Andrew Thomas still on a pitch count. I think he only played like 28 snaps on Sunday Night Football. So if Andrew Thomas is not fully healthy yet, you're sticking him behind an offensive line that is still coming together. It could be bad, but I think you got to just try and take this risk now because Russ ain't it.
Yeah, there's just no sense in playing Russell Wilson at this point. If he was, like, I would rather play Jameis Winston than Russell Wilson at this point. Like because Russ is just not even trying. I mean, when you go 3 straight throwaways in a gotta have it situation, that's just like you lose a fan base because this is already like a dead season. You just want to at least be exciting. And Russ isn't exciting.
Jameis will fight. Yeah. Jackson will fight. It may be some dumb fighting, some stupid left hooks, right hooks, uppercut, but they're going to go down swinging. And as an O lineman, as a fan, you watch the ball come hopping out of Russell Wilson like that on a gotta have it situation through the goalpost multiple times, and you're like, can you get somebody in here who's going to take it on the chin and deliver a strike? Because we got guys down the field who can go catch it.
Yeah, and the Giants, the Maras, they're not going to fire midseason. I don't think that's just not how they operate. So if you're Brian Daboll, you have the rest of this year to save your job, basically.
That's why you started so early.
I don't think it's gonna happen. Truthfully, I think it's going to be a house clean in New York. But this is your best bet, is to, from week 4 all the way to week 18, to show Jaxson Dart some serious improvement to look like a franchise quarterback, to give him as long a leash, as much leeway as possible to look like one, because at this point, starting 0-3, that's the only chance Brian Daboll has to save his job. Just flat out, they're not making the playoffs in that division with their schedule, with the defense not playing as well as I think everyone thought they would. And obviously that, coaching issue there as well, but that's your only opportunity. Is Jaxson Dart looking good is the only way at this point, in my opinion, that the Mars would say, we'll give you another chance, Brian Daboll.
Hey, it's important to point out that schedule, that gauntlet that you pointed out, JP, it's early. And yeah, he's going to take his lumps. He's going to get the shit kicked out of him, and it's going to be a learning experience. But as we know well, fans will remember the last 4 games more than they will the first 4 games. And if Daboll can show that improvement with his young quarterback, the conversation changes, because people are going to be calling for Daboll's job if they go 0-4, in the first 4 with Jackson. If they get beat by the Saints. But then the end of the season, we could see a guy look more confident, more comfortable. And then Daboll, the conversation could change.
I'll say this about Dart. He has been aggressive ever since his true freshman year starting at USC. His average depth of target for his career in college was 10.9 yards. It was 11.9 yards this past season. He will throw down the football field. He did it even at the Senior Bowl when it's not the Ole Miss offense, when, his new players, he was one of the lone guys there willing to actually keep going down the football field. So that should at least play with the receiving talent they have there in New York.
And I think what Daboll will do to start him off is just run the Ole Miss offense. Do all the gimmicky Mickey Mouse like RPO stuff that Ole Miss did just to try and get his feet wet early. It's very similar sort of to what the Broncos did with Bo Nix. Just let him do the easy stuff first. And then after you get through this gauntlet, I think before the bye, you have the Patriots. And then I think I have to go back and check. You have the Patriots, and then you had the Lions and Packers in the last 3 games before the bye. If you can just start to add more stuff to this offense for him to actually run a real offense before the bye, you feel a lot more confident. Because like Kyle said, those last 4 games, the Giants have the Commanders, Vikings, Raiders, and Cowboys. Those are tough games against very solid defenses and a Brian Flores unit that'll probably be looking for a playoff spot. But those are winnable games. You can win those games, and you can show a little bit of fight on offense. So if they can constantly build towards just actually running a real offense, I think there's a lot more enthusiasm with Dart than you come in with now.
All right, let's get from that to some moves being made across the NFL. This was a wild one, maybe not given his career arc at this point, but CJ Gardner-Johnson, who the Texans traded for, who was literally one of their starting safeties through the first 3 weeks. Well, they just released him. The Texans outright said, we don't want you on this team anymore. Reportedly behind the scenes, he wanted to blitz more. He wanted a different role. And obviously CJ Garnder-Johnson has been bounced around between team to team at this point in his career because of this, because he is a guy who behind the scenes is difficult to deal with by all reports. And now he's just a free agent for anyone to sign.
Nobody won this trade with the Eagles
Yes.
and Texans, trading Kenyon Green to the Eagles and CJ Gardner-Johnson going to the Texans. Nobody won. And Eagles fans are going to go, oh, well, it was a salary dump and you got a draft pick. So did the Texans, and you also had to take Kenyon Green, who is not a good football player. It's just funny just watching CJ Gardner-Johnson. One of the first things I thought was, this is what losing to the Jaguars does to you. I still think losing to the Jaguars like breaks a lot of NFL people's brains, because like, how did we lose to the Jaguars? But it's just tough for a guy who is constantly rubbed people the wrong way at every stop. But I do think he'll find a role in the NFL on any team, considering like he's still pretty serviceable. I think Miami could obviously use a guy like him just to bring some veteran like talent into the room. So I'm sure he'll find another landing spot. But this is, I mean, I think the Texans paid $7 million to cut CJ Gardner-Johnson after 3 games. So it was really a sunk cost.
So the CJ Gardner-Johnson saga is a tale we all know as the crazy hot scale. And he's key your car crazy, and he's starting to lose his physique a little bit. So, you know, I'll pay to get you out of here, bud.
Yeah, you can handle guys like that when you're winning and everything's good. When you start 0-3, those guys tend to be the ones you don't want.
I was that guy in Chicago in 2019. They were essentially like, please pack your stuff and get out of here, dude. It's like, please, please, please.
Another one that I think the only explanation is might fall into this category. Jarvis Brownlee, cornerback for the Tennessee Titans, second-year cornerback, 5th rounder from a year ago. Starter for this team. Obviously missed this past week with an ankle injury, but he's dealt to the New York Jets for a late-round pick swap, basically giving him away. A guy who's shown a lot of promise. Through 2 games this season, only allowed 59 yards in those 2 games on 10 targets. Like, he is a competent starting corner. One of the few bright spots, truthfully, on this Tennessee Titans team over the past year and a half. And, well, he's now gone, and he's a New York Jet.
I actually kind of like this for the Jets. Anything to get Brandon Stevens off the field. But Jarvis Brownlee, really physical despite his size. He's aggressive playing the ball in the air. I actually thought he shined in the last part of last season when the Titans season was basically done. But again, he is another guy who rubs people the wrong way. He did it at Florida State. He sort of did it at LSU. It's part of the reason that he was a late round draft pick was because he just is going to get on people's nerves. And that's a great thing to have as a corner, but not a great thing to have as a teammate where you're always getting on everybody's nerves. But I actually think the Jets are a really good environment for him. Aaron Glenn, former defensive back, has done a lot of work in helping to build. Of course, he saw him help build the Lions secondary into what it was. He's going to a good place in New York. And Tennessee, I think, just gets to start over in what feels like a lost season.
You know what? I don't think it's the last thing we'll see from this Titans team, because they're clearly not where they want to be, and they're probably trying to get a head start on the offseason and some of those things because they like their quarterback. There's questions at head coach. They don't know what, but the one thing you control is setting up the roster moving forward. Now, Mike, you'd know better than I would, but the GM in Tennessee, is he safe?
They just, I mean, this is first year, obviously.
So if you clean house with the head coach, if you clean house with, which people have called for over the last few weeks, is it just like we retain our first round number 1 pick and we retain the roster though?
Yeah, we have the,
because I knew Mike in Kansas City when he was there with Poles, but the same fucking questions are getting asked about Ryan Poles in Chicago. And I know it's not his first year, but
the Titans, last thing, the first off the ball here, they're hitting the checklist of fired head coach checklist, right? They have the 0-3 start. They have the head coach with the soundbite not knowing the rules. And now we have the other classic, head coach giving up play calling duties. Brian Callahan giving up play calling duties to quarterback Bo Hardigree. They're speed running the fired head coaching playbook right now.
It's week 4. Like we're in week 4, and you've already given up play calling duties again for the Brian Callahan thing. Like the whole reason he was hired was because he was the QB whisperer for Joe Burrow, and he would call plays to make the quarterback's life easier. And he has done the exact opposite since he has gotten there. This feels like I'm getting fired speed run.
Yes.
Like the entire Titans like offseason has felt like I'm getting fired speed run for Brian Callahan. First of all, you bring in a new GM, and every time you bring in a new GM with an already existing head coach, one of those guys doesn't last long. So I worry for the Titans that they're always going to be on this cycle of you bring in a head coach, you fire the GM. You bring in a new GM, fire the coach. You bring in a new coach, you end up firing the GM, which is exactly what happened with Mike Vrabel. So this is going to be really weird because, again, Bo Hardegree, the last time he called plays was when I believe the Raiders cleaned house. So not a good omen for the Titans.
I like Bo Hardegree, but here's another bad omen, JP. I like him from my experience from being the offensive assistant with the Bears in 2015. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, 2015 Bears record, I believe we were 3-13. We were 6-10. But so the thing about coaches, you got to have the right personality type. Bo Hardegree has the right personality type. I remember him being a super chiller and a super football guy. Loved football, really cerebral, young guy, about 5 years older than me, I would say. And could be the right, handoff. I know that we're speed running firing the coach. And I've heard Big Cat talk about this before. He's like, this is the number one indicator for your up Schitt's Creek without a paddle as you start playing hot potato with the play calling duties. But I like Bo Hardegree. I'm going to root for him. I'm going to root for Bo Hardegree in this one. I
feel like week 7, we're firing Denard Wilson, DC. Week 13, Brian Callahan's coach's last game, and then we're on to Bo Hardigree's taking over as interim. When's
Pete Carroll's son going to get the boot?
That's the path. Pete Carroll's son.
The O-line coach.
You're untouchable. You're untouchable if you're related to if you're the son of the head coach.
I don't know, man.
I think the Titans interim head coach when Callahan gets fired is already on staff. Obviously, senior offensive assistant and future interim head coach Mike McCoy.
Oh yeah,
he's ready. He's back on the saddle.
All right, there's our first off the ball segment. We are going to get to our power tiers for week 4 coming up right after this.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense.
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah. All right, let's start with the mock draft target demo tier, where we have a new addition, but we also got a win last week in this tier to maybe their chagrin, where the Browns got a win. They're in the mock draft target demo still, though. They may win more games, unfortunately, because their defense is very nasty, but they are still very much eyes towards next year's draft and next year's quarterback class specifically. Saints in this tier, Titans in this tier, Dolphins in this tier, and your new addition, fresh off of the biggest spanking we've seen all season long, Cincinnati Bengals. Unfortunately, I don't think Jake Browning is going to lead this team to the promised land.
Yeah, I mean, with the Bengals, Joe Burrow won't be back until week 15, week 16? And even then, do you risk playing Joe Burrow for the last 2 games of a lost season? You might as well shut him down now. This season is over, and it felt like watching the Bengals on Sunday, it felt like they knew that the season was over. It was if we had our quarterback out here, things would be different. But now that it's not, it's like everybody's sort of packed it in.
All right,
not a good place to be as a team. But to your point, I mean, you can see the writing on the wall. And the minute you see Burrow on the ground, you're like, man, we couldn't even get it last year when we won the Triple Crown with Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow was looking like Dan Marino. So without him, Why am I even out here bashing my skull against this guy?
Yeah, this is called a draft eval year. You're watching the young guys. All right. Next tier is called Where's Our Offense tier. A new tier of teams that we thought would have better offenses than they have. It's New England Patriots, it's the Atlanta Falcons, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Carolina Panthers. All of these teams averaging under 21 points a game so far this season. We thought we'd see big offensive improvements. We thought Michael Penix leap into year 2. Bryce Young would at least pick up where he left off last year. Hasn't done that whatsoever. That the Raiders with Chip Kelly and Geno Smith would be exciting. That hasn't happened since week 1. And the offensive line has been a disaster, as we've mentioned on numerous occasions. And then the New England Patriots, they're just, I think we know where their offense is. It's just not there. There's no talented play. They just don't have talent at the receiving position right now.
And booty.
It sucks for the Patriots because Drake May is 8th in the NFL in EPA per play. He has played awesome. He has been incredible to start his second year. And it doesn't matter at all because their number 1 receiver is Kayshon Boutte, and they can't get anything going on the ground without somebody fumbling. So it's just, it sucks because this year has turned into an eval year for a team that made a little bit of moves on offense to get a bigger jump from their offense, but none of those acquisitions have really panned out yet.
I think the most telling thing is that the Patriots leader in targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns is Hunter Henry. Drake May played an offense in North Carolina that didn't even use a tight end. It was a 4 wide most of the time offense. And now he gets to the NFL, and that's the guy he's targeting the most by necessity because no one else is getting open in that offense. All right, next tier. It's called the Where's Our Defense tier. Now, 3 of these teams I thought would have solid defenses. 1 we knew wasn't, but it's been all-time bad. It's the Steelers. It's the Cowboys. It's the Giants. It's the Jets. All these teams, again, in the bottom half in terms of points per game allowed this season. Bottom half in terms of EPA per play. We thought Giants, Jets, you sign a defensive head coach. You think that defense is going to get back to the form it was under Robert Saleh. Not even close. The Giants, you draft defensive player in the top 5 for, second time in 3 years here. You draft, you draft a safety in his corner. They've loaded up on defensive draft picks, loaded up in free agency in the draft. Defense is still an issue. Cowboys, we knew though. That one we kind of knew, but we thought they could at least stomach something together, and it's been absolutely abysmal through 3 weeks.
I'm actually a little confused. I'm actually a little frustrated with the Steelers defense. For a team, again, that has poured so much into this part of the game. TJ Watt, I believe now is the second highest paid edge rusher in the NFL by APY. You give Cam Hayward a raise. You go out and get Jalen Ramsey. You go out and get Darius Slay. The defense naturally looks old and slow. You put all of your eggs into your basket of an old and slow defense, but you consistently play man coverage with a secondary that is missing Joey Porter Jr., but is also aging. You're not playing into what your biggest strengths are. And I honestly think the Steelers are borderline where's our offense? They could be in both, but the only
we knew that, right? We thought that.
We had a feeling this would happen, but the defense being as bad as it is not a great sign for a team that was supposed to be banking itself on being a very good, one of the top 10 defenses in the NFL.
So they're bottom 10 right now in EPA per play. And I think the most damning thing is their schedule has not been hard. It's against the Jets, it's against the Seahawks, it's against the Patriots. They haven't gotten worked by the Ravens. They haven't gotten worked by the Bills. They haven't faced a top offense that some of the other lesser defenses in terms of performance so far, because it is still a small sample size. No, their sample size is 3 rank average to below average offenses that they faced, and the results still have been pretty bad for this defense.
You look at the Steelers defense, $178.9 million allocated to the defense. It's the most expensive one. It's 63% of their total cap. I usually don't do these kind of numbers, right? This requires research, and I hate research. Okay. I like ball. I don't like research, but my frustration with the Steelers defense and seemingly they're, what are they, a little long in the tooth is how they would be described up front. That was the strength of this team. That was the identity. It wasn't something they had to search for weeks 1 through 7. Like even with Justin Fields at quarterback, it was like, we know who we are defensively. Now we don't know who the Steelers are, and they're going to have to invent an identity offensively to make up for the lack of production for the defense. I would argue there's another team that could be on this tier that's holding back one of my favorite players currently, but I digress.
Okay, I think I know what team that is, but we'll get to that. They're in a different tier here. Next tier, and you might know where this one's going. It's the if JJ McCarthy was good tier, we'd win the Super Bowl. And it's the Minnesota Vikings. Surprise, surprise. It's just, dude, this defense is with Brian Flores is still nasty. Their running game has been very effective, one of the best in terms of success rates in the NFL. You have that receiving core still that's, one of the best in the league. Obviously, we haven't seen Jordan Addison yet, but when he comes back, like, it is all there. It's all there. And if JJ McCarthy was a good quarterback, they would be maybe hyperbole, definitely hyperbole, say they'd win the Super Bowl, but that is it. That is it right now. It's if JJ McCarthy's good, this team is in the top tier on this list. But what we've seen from him, lowest EPA per play of any quarterback in the NFL, they are just firmly in this tier of we have no clue really what's going to happen. They're 2-1, obviously still, tied with the Packers, top the division right now, tied with the Lions, top the division. No real harm done for him starting as bad as he has, but things got to turn around quick.
It would be incredibly funny if Carson Wentz was actually the answer.
He
for their problem.
Foles and Nick Foles.
If he Nick Foles JJ McCarthy,
the reverse Nick Foles, dude.
Thing. It'd be the funniest thing because I already know, like, they're gonna go play the Steelers in Ireland this week. If the Vikings, and they probably will, if the Vikings beat the Steelers and Carson Wentz has a great game, it's going to be, I just know Minnesota sports radio is going to be so chaotic.
I honestly, nothing I love more than a backup quarterback outplaying the starter, and then you just have that question. It's always like, oh, what do we do?
The Vikings are going to win. Vikings are going to win that game. They have a better team, okay? So just speaking from the sports science standpoint, take a look at the average age of these guys, okay? Just look at the age of the rosters and the star players for the Minnesota Vikings, how willing and able their bodies are to travel, go anywhere, show up and play, roll out of bed. Like, what was the big coach that said, he said, when we stormed the beaches of Normandy, we didn't stretch. We just went and won 2 world wars with no calisthenics type shit. That's the Vikings, okay? And when I think about the Steelers, they probably require red light therapy, saunas, all those things to feel good. They might not have it in Ireland, okay? They might have a pint and a cigarette and say, go play some ball. I feel like the Vikings might do better there. And also Flores is going to be a nightmare for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Let's get to the next tier. It's the we're not bad, but we are 3-0. 0-3, excuse me. Not 3-0. But we are 0-3. It's the Houston Texans. I still believe that this is a good football team. I mean, defensively, this is a great football team. Offensively, they should not be the worst offense in the NFL. Through 3 weeks, they've been the worst offense in the NFL. They're averaging 12.7 points per game. That's the lowest of any team in the league. I still believe this team can make the playoffs. I know it's crazy. I know the results are bad, but they have played 3 teams that are probably going to make, or 3 good teams at least at this point. So in the Rams, in the Jags, in the Buccaneers. So like they're 0-3. It's 3 good teams. They will probably beat the bad teams on their schedule. They will beat the Titans this upcoming week. I would be floored if they didn't. If they don't, we're going to have a different conversation. But I still think there is a good team lying underneath that just needs to figure out an identity offensively that is a little more conducive to CJ Stroud not getting killed, right? Just like get the ball in his hands, just RPOs, like anything you can to just quick game, screen game, whatever you can do to make sure he doesn't have to drop back pass as much as he has been. But I don't know. I guess I just this is a long way of saying I just still believe in the Texans making the playoffs, even though they're 0-3.
It's hard to find any offense when your offensive line can't block.
This is true.
This is true. It's really hard to say, like, yeah, we're going to do a lot more screens. We're going to do a lot more play action when you just can't block. Watching back the game against the Jaguars, there's a play, they run max protection, and they're trying to get a deep over to Nico Collins, who you could say is probably a little open on this play. Josh Hines-Allen is in the backfield as soon as CJ Stroud gets out of his play action drop. On max protection, the Jaguars aren't bringing a blitz. And once you see that, it's like if you're getting pressured on a max protection, it's just not happening. Like they've tried screens, they haven't worked. They've tried running the ball. I'd argue they are the worst team at running the football in the NFL when it comes to collection of offensive line and running back.
Yes.
It's so hard finding an identity when the biggest thing that is conducive to an identity is also your biggest weakness. Like if you don't have a good offensive line, that changes everything for your offense. So I worry about this team specifically because, yeah, they might have a shot at making the playoffs because you're in the AFC South, but they got games against the Ravens on the road, Seahawks on the road. You have to play the Broncos, you got the Niners, Bills, you got the Chiefs. Like this is not an easy schedule. Like the easy part of the schedule was this first part. So if they can't get some easy wins off the Titans, like you said, then we have more alarm bells ringing than normal.
Are they getting Joe Mixon back?
Doesn't seem like it. No.
Because whenever he comes back, the grade of the uphill climb you have to make is a little bit less. Because even when there are unblocked defenders, run through second level guys, he can make some grimy yards happen. And if you have to manufacture it like trenches style, I'm talking like the most ugly style of offense, get there because it'll help CJ Stroud. And to your point, you just can't have him back there getting killed every play. That's how you can really hinder a great quarterback's confidence. And then you go for this long period of time where you're wondering, what the hell happened to CJ Stroud when it's been right there in front of us the whole time? It's sad, but at the same time, Mike, I agree with you. I'm not counting this team out just because of the talent they have, the leadership they have at the top. And they've proven to me that they can get there before. And it wasn't a great O-line last time either. So hopefully CJ figures it out.
Yeah, it's honestly been watching Nick Chubb run has just been sad. Like it's unfortunate because he was such a physical freak. Like him at his freshman year at Georgia, such a monster. And when he was healthy in the NFL, just like truly a special talent. But like he's had those like Austin Eckler moments when he gets out in the open field and you're just like, oh, that's all he's got at this point. It's just like, oh, come on. He used to be different.
It's like that scene in Cars 3 where Lightning is like turning the corner and Jackson Storm is just like driving right past him. He's like, I hope you enjoy retirement, and zooms past him. And it's just like, oh, like this is the new speed. And watching Nick Chubb, it's like, man, this is like Lightning McQueen in Cars 3. Like you find out that your favorite running back is washed.
Or that scene from Playmakers. Remember that scene from Playmakers where it's the old running back and the coach brings him in the office and he like shows him the new running back running through the hole. He's like 1/10 of a second, 2/10 of a second, 3/10 of a second. And it's like gets through the hole and he's like, you weren't making that hole. Yeah, that's what it feels like, unfortunately, with Nick Chubb.
Like the first time that the Kansas City Chiefs lined me up at right tackle after I broke my leg and Frank Clark was jumping the snap, and I didn't touch Frank Clark for 2 days in practice. So I called my wife and I was like, I think we're going home after this season, babe.
Oh, no. All right. Let's get the next tier here. Playoff hopefuls, where it's kind of shrinking because we're seeing teams fall off of it. It's the Broncos. It's the Colts. I didn't move the Colts to contenders just yet. We're close, but they're still in the playoff hopefuls. 49ers, Chiefs, Seahawks, Jaguars, and Cardinals.
I am so frustrated with the Cardinals This is such a frustrating team to watch. And as you guys both know, I put a lot of stock into the Cardinals this year. I said they're going to make the playoffs. I had Jonathan Gannon as my coach of the year. This team irks me, like watching them play, because again, they can never play a normal football game. Like it's always you are like against the 49ers. They couldn't figure out what to do offensively. And I feel like they are also another team that's borderline like, where is our offense? Because they're still trying to figure out, like, can Kyler get the ball, like, over the middle of the field? That is the biggest thing. They run so many over routes, crossing routes. They've actually done a lot more work with getting Marvin Harrison Jr. some of these easy, like, overs, these middle of the field targets. And Kyler's just not throwing the ball. Like, that's the biggest thing that's holding this offense back. And now James Conner is out, and there goes your easy button on the ground. I wonder what the adjustment's going to be. I wonder what this team's going to look like on Thursday against the Seahawks, who have a very good defense. But I just want this team to be normal. Like for like 1 week, just have a normal 60-minute football game.
I feel the same way about a lot of these teams, though, where it's like, you know, obviously watching the Bears, it's like I wish we were just a normal, you know what I mean? I wish we had some guys who could make plays. But with the Jags, like so much of it, with the Cardinals, rather, so much of it is just like you, me, Mike, everybody was like, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to step onto the field and make life easy for every single, like, it'll be easy to coach this guy. And I'm putting words in y'all's mouths, but that's not what we've seen. How much of it is Kyler Murray? How much of it is Marvin Harrison Jr.? This defense is going to have to play really well against the Seahawks, who I picked actually to win this game. And, you know, you've solidified that belief in me, JP. I appreciate that. But, yeah, man, there's a lot of the question marks in this tier right here. The hopefuls is like, are we or are we not? It's like the papier-mâché tiger, fool's gold bracket.
Yeah, I like calling this the fool's gold. Yeah, is this because a lot of these teams, it just feels like they're not going to win the Super Bowl, right? Like if you told me any of these teams won the Super Bowl, even the Chiefs, right, I would be absolutely for.
Yeah,
they just don't feel like they have enough. Even the Broncos, who I was super high on going into the season, I'm just like, I need to see more offensively. What Bo Nix has done through 3 weeks is, I mean, he looks like literally the guy we saw at the beginning of last season, not the guy we saw towards the end. So this whole tier is like, yeah, this you're going to look back and be like, this is probably like a solid season. You're not going to be super upset with the results of the season, but you're also not, when you go take the football field with the teams in the upper tiers, it's going to take some breaks to go your way for you to pull those off.
I do have a quick funny stat for you guys about the Jaguars offense. And I think it's according to Nate Tice, they have already tied the league record for illegal shift penalties in a season.
That's crazy.
And again, the funny thing about the Jaguars is they are so close to being a machine offensively. If they can just not do illegal shifts. Like I made the joke during the game on Sunday. It's like if you're seeing this, you've been called for an illegal shift penalty. Like they're always going to get called for them. It's a legal shift, it's a holding or something. Something is going wrong with the Jaguars that's holding them back from being an elite offense, and it's literally just penalties.
Oh, dude, and they should be so fun. And they're, like you said, they cannot stay out of their own way. They have the highest drop rate in the NFL too, I believe. They're like up over like 13% drop rate at this point in time, which is unbelievable.
Chiefs are on this list because Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL in quarterback rushing yards. This is one of the best passers in football. There's clearly things going wrong in Kansas City. They're not getting the production out of their stars, particularly up front. A lot of people want to talk about the receivers, but like they've been a bit disjointed in the run game. And the run game is such a big part of that offense historically. When they're successful, they have a run game. And obviously with Pacheco coming off injury, he doesn't have the same pop. Guys like Hunt are 40 years old, and Patrick's doing it all himself. So, I mean, they're in this playoff hopeful list, but I feel like it's a dog going into a fight. You know, he can't win.
Yeah,
it
almost
in the big picture.
It feels like a boxer rolling in well past his prime, and you're like, maybe he pulls it off. Like,
Or a boxer that just
young.
had surgery and they shouldn't be fighting this soon, because obviously we know Patrick Mahomes isn't done, and he's going to have his Empire Strikes Back moment.
It's not Mahomes that's the boxer; it's the roster
but it's
itself.
The idea of the Chiefs as we have known them.
Yeah,
it was like Logan Mankins. So Logan Mankins was on the Patriots for a very long time. Very good player. I believe he had no Super Bowls. He was in that part of the Patriots dynasty where they had
6 through. Yeah.
So like those do exist in dynasties, and then they can pick it back up. But I think we're in like the lull right now in this. If there was an orchestral song, it's the low part right now. Blah, 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 blah. He's coming back. It ain't this year. I mean, unfortunately, I just don't see it happening.
I do actually think the Chiefs could really benefit from being more under center with their run game. They are such a shotgun-based team. I think they lead the NFL in just shotgun percentage. But if they were under center, I think it benefits their offensive line more, who are, I believe, they're probably more athletic as a unit than they have been in a long time. But putting them out on islands in shotgun, it really doesn't help their offensive line very much, and also doesn't help their running backs, who at this point need to gain that head of steam in the backfield before they can get some positive yards. So it frustrates me watching the Chiefs offense too, because you can see that they also think that they'll run a really good run concept from under center, and then everything else is out of shotgun for the rest of the game.
Calling out Andy Reid, both. And I don't disagree though. They need to find answers any way they can. And the good thing about Andy Reid is there has not, I mean, like, think in your head what the Andy Reid offense is. There's not really, like, he is willing to.
It's everything.
Change. Exactly. He is willing to change given what they're doing well week to week, year to year, who they have on their roster. That's just like, he has been one of the most flexible offensive minds in football. And that's how you reinvent yourself with as many different rosters as he had and still be good. So I expect there to be changes in Kansas City as we move forward. All right, contenders. Commanders, Rams, Chargers, Bucks, Ravens. Ravens get demoted from the Super Bowl favorites. When you have the second, when you give up 38 to the Lions, 41 to the Bills, when you have this, I believe the second worst defense right now in terms of points per game allowed, in front of only the Dolphins, I just can't call you a favorite. Now, this is like what we saw. It's funny. This is the same thing we saw last year. Like this, for the first 10 weeks of last season, the defense was a problem. Down the stretch, it was one of the best in the NFL. Complete switch flipped. I don't know if there's that switch to flip, though, this year. They just have gotten exposed by better offenses around the league. So when you give that up, who's that?
That's Marlon Humphrey after the game.
No.
Like the morning after the game.
When you got a guy on, is that Instagram Live? Was he?
Yeah, he did a podcast with a towel on his head, and he was very kind of, matter of fact about the game. It's strange. I love Marlon Humphrey. He's entertaining as shit, but I'm like, can we be entertaining next week?
Yeah, like let's save that for like Wednesday.
Yeah,
not the immediate day after. With the Ravens, and specifically watching them against the Lions, what are we doing here structurally from a defensive standpoint? Because the Lions would get into 11 and 12 personnel and run them into the dirt, and the Ravens just lined up in nickel. They're lined up in nickel. They're going to line up the way they are. They walk Kyle Hamilton down, and then they try and stop the run in the light box, but that didn't work. So I want them to be more aggressive in forcing the issue defensively, because it feels like they're still waiting to turn on that second gear. But you can't wait like in the NFL. You can't wait because the Bills are probably going to get home field advantage. They're 3-0 and they play the AFC East the rest of the way. That means you're going to have to go to Buffalo again to try and beat the Bills to get through to the Super Bowl. You got to get off to a fast start. You have to have your defense playing well. And I don't know what the issue is with this Ravens defense, because they are talented. I think they are coached fairly well. It's just some of the situational stuff for them is really, really odd. And this has been an issue for them for a while.
It's so disrespectful to line up in nickel, big nickel, whatever the hell you want to call it with Kyle Hamilton. So disrespectful. And for Dan Campbell, John Morton, like, I give him credit, 4 rushing touchdowns. Like, at which point are you going to be like, all right, bring in the bigs here. We got to get to Bear. We got to get to, something else. So disrespectful. I would be breaking the huddle so happy that you're still in big nickel. And I'm like, I can't wait to go run at this third level defender that you think can hang with the big boys. No offense to Kyle Hamilton, because he can't hang with the big boys, but not the Lions.
Yeah, this tier, I do think the Commanders are still the interesting one in this tier, in that we really don't quite know yet who this team is, in my opinion. I mean, the Packers game obviously was a complete trouncing. Jane Daniels, if that injury lingers, he's not Jane Daniels, right? We talked about it, that the running game, his ability, his mobility is such a huge part of that offense that without it, we just don't know what the Commanders are going to be. So they still end up in this contenders tier. Let's get the Super Bowl favorites, where we've just lost one. We haven't dropped any others. It's the Lions, the Packers, the Eagles, the Bills. Lions move up here. They obviously, last 2 weeks, some resounding W's for them. Packers, I'm not going to crush. Their defense still is amongst maybe the best in the NFL. And the offense was down 3 offensive linemen at times in that game against one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Stuff like that.
Run,
happens.
Jordan, run!
One block field goal away from still being 3-0. These, to me, are right now, through 3 weeks, your most impressive 4 teams in the league.
And it's so funny with the Eagles. They just figured out that they still had A.J. Brown. Like, that's the biggest thing that they did that turned that offense into a buzzsaw. They remembered that the A.J. Brown stop routes and all the A.J. Brown curl routes and all the A.J. Brown go routes really work, because he is one of the most physically dominant players at the position. So I want to see them moving forward actually just press that button a little earlier in the game. And, like, if it comes down to it, like, just give the ball to him. Just throw the ball to him. Like, that's the biggest thing. So the fact that they found that offense in the second half gives me a lot more hope for how that Eagles offense is going to go moving forward. But yeah, these are the 4, I'd argue, the 4 best teams in the league right now.
All right, Kyle.
Man. The Eagles are for real, bro. And people had concerns about this team last year, but they answered those concerns. And defensively, they're only going to get better throughout the course of the season. The young guys are going to be more experienced. Vic Fangio is going to learn which buttons he can press with guys. And on the offensive side of the ball, Petula is going to be more confident, to your point, JP, and just saying sometimes we got to switch the coach setting from conservative to intermediate. We're not necessarily going Bitcoin strategy here, but we're going, let's take a couple shots down the field, because that guy A.J. Brown's different, man. That guy A.J. Brown's different. And there's only a handful of guys that are just physically better than the guy that is going to be lined up across from him. I'm taking my chance with A.J. Brown. And Saquon hasn't been great, but relative to Saquon standards. But I say keep going with Saquon. Keep pumping. I don't think he's, people was asking me this week, is Saquon slowing? I'm like, no, bro. Just keep handing him the football. They need to get Lane Johnson back in the lineup healthy, and they'll be just fine.
All right, Kyle, I did not include in any of these tiers the Chicago Bears. I want you to place them in a tier.
I thought you were going to hit me with some, something real. I would say the Bears could fit into a number of different categories here. Where's our defense being one of them? Because at times I feel like without Jalen Johnson on the field, they will be presented with some mismatches. I give credit to Tyreek Stevenson for playing well out there at the CB1 last week, but they're going to need some consistency out of him. The pass rush, in my opinion, is something that if you don't have it, you're just flat out not going to beat good offenses because guys like Matt Stafford can stand back there and pick you apart. I would say playoff hopefuls is a place where I could see the Chicago Bears. If Caleb Williams continues to make strides with his footwork, with his decision-making, if the defense finds a way to be more competitive and make some stops, I think this is a team that could be interesting towards the end of the season. Obviously, the Vikings have a great team, and they blew out the Bengals with a backup quarterback last week, but a lot is riding on who Carson Wentz is in the next few weeks. When J.J. McCarthy comes back, and if J.J. McCarthy is going to be a good quarterback. The Broncos, dude, what a letdown, in my opinion. They were supposed to look like some juggernauts early, but now I'm like, I would put the Bears in this category, the playoff hopeful category.
I would have gone, where's our defense?
Yeah, where's our there are two categories. It's where's our defense, or, we're playing the Cowboys defense, and we can just put up 50.
All right, there's our power tiers. We're going to take a quick break. After that, we're going to get to our franchise quarterback tiers. We got 10 tiers of them, so get ready for that. Coming up next.
You can't count on Derek's taunt skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
We're going to start with the absolutely not tier. These are just, they're not franchise quarterbacks, and we know this. It is Joe Flacco, it's Justin Fields. We don't need to debate this. Everyone knows it deep down in their hearts.
Jeez.
The fan bases know it.
Even the people from Chicago that wanted the Hall.
Even the Chicago believers who cried.
Even the Hall crowd. Okay.
The next tier is called the prayer tier. We are praying.
Carson Wentz.
JJ McCarthy. It's Jaxson Dart, and it's Spencer Rattler. It's really all you can do at this point because there's not much any has shown that actually makes you think they're a franchise quarterback. Obviously, Jaxson Dart hasn't even played. JJ McCarthy 2 games. Spencer Rattler, it just was never supposed to be, but we can pray, and he has looked better this year than he's looked in years past. So the prayer tier.
Spencer Rattler is so fascinating to me because every time I watch the Saints, it's like, oh, here are a couple nice throws. He does a couple nice things, and the Saints are down by 30 points. I want to say give him another shot, but also with where the Saints are as a franchise, they're going to have another top pick. And unless he starts to win some games, I could definitely see them bringing in another quarterback. But I think he's played fine to some extent, but it's tough for him because this season is pretty much dead in the water for them.
You at least, at minimum, and I wrote about this in the piece of CBS Sports, you give him this season. You do not bench him for Tyler Shuck. You do not. He has done more than enough to see what you have. And that's why I didn't put him in the absolute not tier because I don't think it's crazy that Spencer Rattler ends up being a long-term starter somewhere in the NFL. But if you go and you have a top 3 pick in this draft, and if you like this quarterback class, you don't, unless things really change around. And again, if you have a top 3 pick, things probably haven't changed around a ton. You're drafting a quarterback next year. All right, next tier. It's called the just make it through the year healthy tier. It's Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. They know where they are.
I'm also praying for these guys.
These fan bases know that it's like one hit away, that when the quarterbacks have the injury histories they do, when they're at the age they are, that you're week to week with these guys. You're not year to year, you're week to week. And after this season, I think if you're the Rams also, you have to address the quarterback position in some way, shape, or form, in some meaningful way, shape, or form. Both these teams have to have this year.
I completely understand how and why putting Matt Stafford in this tier. I think I would put him in franchise legend because he brought them to the Super Bowl. He has been incredible for the Rams when healthy, when he's been on the field. It's just now he's sort of on the downturn of that. Instead of getting him the year they did and they immediately won the Super Bowl, he's still been very good. And I still do think he's probably going to get his jersey put in the rafters in LA.
Oh, he will, for sure.
For bringing them that Super Bowl, for being an elite quarterback during his time there. it's just like, man, like please just have the Immortal Chamber on standby this year just to see if you can create another just see if you can get another few games out of Matthew Stafford.
I would also argue that both of these guys could belong in the prayer tier as well, with Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford.
Pray they make it through the year.
God, it's, you said if they take a weird hit. I mean, if they reach for the cheese drawer in their refrigerator without stretching, and I've been there before, you pop a rib out that bad, you can't move, you can't play. So the success of their football teams is dependent upon them stretching before they reach for their dairy drawer.
All right, the next tier. I call this the why are they going backwards tier. And it features Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, and Bryce Young. Why are they going backwards?
I think the Michael Penix Jr. thing is it's fascinating because Michael Penix Jr. is the reliever who always throws 100. He is the guy who is always throwing smoke. And when it's on, the Falcons look incredible. But there are just going to be games like he has against the Panthers where nothing is working to the outside and he's just off. There are always going to be games like that with Penix because of his mechanics. And right now he just doesn't want to throw over the middle of the field. So with all the volatility that comes with outside passing, you're either on or it looks horrible. So I think of these guys, I actually feel like I'm a little more confident in Penix moving up because you can see it there. The middle of the field stuff is there. Pitts was open for a couple big plays over the middle of the field on Sunday. It's just now you have to get him more confident in taking those.
I love that reliever comp. He's like the guy who one season he'll have 50 saves. He'll have an ERA of 1.2, and he'll be like, this guy is the GOAT. And it'll be 2-year stretch. And then you'll have years where he throws 25 picks. And you're like, what? How'd that happen? But now it's so weird because he's one of 2 quarterbacks this year who does not have a deep completion, a 20+ yard completion. Trevor Lawrence being the other. It's if you would have told me that, if you would have given me plus,
he throws such a pretty deep ball too,
5,000 odds that fully healthy through 3 weeks of the season, Michael Penix wouldn't have one deep completion, I would not have taken that bet.
And I think that's an indication of how much respect that teams have for Michael Penix and his ability to get the ball downfield because they're forcing him to work the quick game. They're forcing him to work the middle of the field. And this was one of the stories I wrote about Michael Penix to end the season. It was this growth in the middle of the field will help continue to unlock that explosive ability. If he can continue to be good, if he can start taking those middle of the field passes and start being a little better in quick game, I think the deep shots will start to take off. I'm diamond handsing it. I'm holding on to the Michael Penix Jr. ascension. I think he's going to be fine. It's just this was going to happen for Michael Penix.
You're going to start seeing if he can start hitting those middle of the field looks. If Kyle Pitts becomes a guy that is circled in the Saturday night defensive meeting, if you're playing the Falcons, then you're going to start getting buzz coverage. You're going to start getting guys rolling down. The shell will change, and that's where there's voids in the defense. And obviously, Michael Penix, from watching him in college, was a guy that threw a great ball that went up really high and fell down really well. I'm not even sure how to even say that without just being he throws a pretty deep ball, and it looks like it's a friendly ball, which is contrary to the fastball stuff. But if he can get the middle of the field open, you're going to start seeing teams respect that quick game, and you have to allocate things from the back end. Next thing you know, Penix, who's seen a lot of ball, played a lot of ball, he's going to make people pay. I wouldn't panic on Penix. Even Clemens gave up 6 home runs some games.
All right, the next tier is called the teetering on the edge tier. 2 quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa. Teetering on the edge in terms of they at one point were considered franchise quarterbacks, but we're starting to reach that cliff where it wouldn't surprise me if after the season, neither are with their respect. If they're on the trade block, actively looking to move these guys at their respective spots.
Kyler is, again, with how frustrating that the Cardinals are, Kyler Murray also plays a large part in that because he is just a frustrating player. He is a frustrating quarterback to watch because it feels like he should be more explosive than he and the offense actually are. But there are some obvious limitations. He is not throwing the ball over the middle of the field. It's whether it be that he can't see over the middle of the field because he's short or just chooses not to. He's not throwing the ball over the middle of the field. He has clearly kind of lost a step athleticism-wise. It feels like there are just less scrambles for Kyler. It feels like there's less designed run game for Kyler this year, which I'm sort of like, if you want to get this offense back on track, you need to run Kyler more. But it feels like teetering is perfect for Kyler Murray because this season specifically, it feels like this is the make or break.
It's crazy. You have to baby-proof your house if both of these guys come over and for different reasons. In terms of health for Tua and just, you might need to get a couple step stools around the house for Kyler if he wants some snacks. But I will echo that sentiment about Kyler Murray and trying to find a way to make that Cardinals offense better. Look, before I was an offensive lineman, I was an edge rusher. And oftentimes I had to deal with guys like Russell Wilson in high school and in junior high. And I can tell you what that does and the stress that it puts on a defense. If Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray has to sit in the pocket all day, it makes my job a lot easier. You want to make things happen on offense, start getting the superpower from Kyler Murray. Press that button some more. Guys will come open down the field.
Kyler's career record, he's 29, 37, and 1. One playoff appearance now in 6 years as a starter, and no division championships there in the NFC West. Now, some of that's a Steve Keim stat. Maybe I'd argue a lot of that's a Steve Keim stat.
Yeah.
But, the results at this point are wearing thin for Cardinals fans if they can't get it done, get to the playoffs this year.
Steve Keim messaged me on Instagram week 1 when he found out I was going to try the Lambeau leap. He messaged me on Instagram and he said, "No shot, you get up there." And then I got up there and
I can't evaluate talent.
I was like, "Hey, Steve, I fucking did, buddy."
Never could. No, I don't want to bag him too hard, but yeah.
Nice guy.
The results speak.
Nice guy.
Probably a great guy. That's how he kept a job for so long.
Didn't know what he was looking at with the big guy and maybe the little guy too over there.
All right. Next tier. It's called getting the whole rookie contract here. These guys will get their whole rookie contracts to start. Feel very confident in that. But I think it's too early to say what they really are going to be. It's Caleb Williams and Drake May. I think they are both going to be in higher tiers in the future. But at this point in time, I think all we can really say is they will get their whole rookie contracts at least.
I'm so curious on where Cam Ward's going to slot in this eventually because Cam Ward feels like he could have fit in any of the previous, like getting the whole rookie contract, obviously, the prayer, obvious for obvious reasons for the Titans, but it just feels like he right now can fit into so many of these categories that I'm just like, ooh, I wonder where he's going to end up.
You know what? I completely forgot Cam Ward. Where are we putting Cam Ward?
Funny as shit.
I honestly think it's here. If I were to go back and do it, I think it's this.
Yeah,
I would bet good money he's getting his whole rookie contract. He's shown me more than enough that I would give him the whole rookie contract at this point.
I think he's getting the whole rookie contract. There are going to be some really, really stupid moments in there, both good and bad. But as long as Titans fans and Titans brass are willing to ride the wave of stupid and good stupid, like it should be fine.
And he's also going to get, at minimum, like the 2-year bump that Bryce Young's got, where it's, hey, we didn't give you shit, we made you play with scraps for 2 years. So at minimum, he gets the 3rd year, which is when they finally probably have the cap space and the wherewithal to put enough talent around him. And then after that, it's like, all right, you got 3 years. You're probably going to give him 4. So I think he easily slots into this. And honestly, I've been encouraged. I know the results aren't good. The results, you can put Joe Burrow in there and the results wouldn't be good. It's just not a good offense. So I've been encouraged with Cam Ward through 3 games.
Cam Ward's fun. Cam Ward's a lot of fun.
That helps too. That matters in my opinion.
Drake May. It is like nobody wants to. be part of a boring situation. Like, you don't win with boring, bro. I hate to break it to you. I know we're trying to do the S&P 500, not turn the ball over, you keep a completion percentage up, but like it can be fun and you do that too. Like I watched Patrick Mahomes do it for a very long time. Cam Ward, he deserves to be on this list. Drake May, a lot of fun. You can't teach physical specimen. Drake May's got that. He seems to be a baller. He seems to have the respect of his teammates. And then obviously Caleb Williams is the wild card here. He could be on any of these tiers above him. But also if you asked somebody 2 weeks ago, it might be on the why are they going backwards tier. So consistency is key with all these guys. And I think we're in a really good place in terms of young quarterbacks.
All right, the next tier. It's called the ingratiating well tier. And it's very obvious. I mean, it's Sam Darnold, it's Daniel Jones, and Geno Smith. I think all three. Now, Geno had the bad game week 2, but the weeks 1 and 3, he was awesome. Daniel Jones, no explanation necessary. Sam Darnold has been really all they could ask for out there in Seattle, given what they've put around him talent-wise. So I think all three of these fan bases are happy. I don't think all three of these fan bases have any sort of lofty hopes that these guys will turn into Josh Allen anytime soon. They just are three fan bases that I don't want to say are starved for quarterbacks, because Seattle obviously has been pretty good in terms of keeping the level of play at quarterback high, but three fan bases where no one is complaining with their quarterback position right now. And you'll probably have these guys for the next 2 to 3 seasons, I bet, at minimum.
This is the divorced dads tier. Okay, like they got out of a or divorced moms that got out of a bad relationship, and
yeah,
they said the expectations aren't extremely high right now with what I got going on in my life, and Sam Darnold shows up and I got a lot of questions.
This wants someone to make him feel alive again.
I just want to be appreciated. Sam Darnold is that, you don't have lofty expectations for him. You have expectations of getting a veteran quarterback and being able to run the offense, but like he's made plays, and Daniel Jones as well. They're not asking him to reinvent the wheel, but people are really happy to see him. They've been crying at a picture of Andrew Luck for the last God knows how many years. And now they get this guy, and he looks awesome. He's got a cool nickname, which always helps. Geno Smith is the one where I'm like, I thought accuracy was his bag, and the accuracy wasn't there in that one game, but also he's not getting much help from that offensive line. I had really high hopes for the Las Vegas Raiders offense, having played under Chip and knowing what Pete Carroll can do for a culture. But if the O-line ain't working, none of it's working. And now we got people saying Ashton Genty doesn't have the it factor.
I do think it is so funny how quickly Daniel Jones got that nickname that is infinitely better than any nickname Daniel Jones has ever had. Indiana Jones objectively rules. Like, that's an awesome nickname. But it's so much better than Danny Dimes. Like that,
Daniel Loans is what I called him in like 2021.
Yeah, like Indiana Jones, like that's incredible. Like it makes so much sense. So we're maybe like, given how starved the Colts have been for QB play, we're a Colts playoff win from him being a franchise legend.
That's true. They're so close to crowning that guy, and rightfully so, dude. I mean, they've been exciting through 3 weeks here. All right, next year. It's called the we're riding long-term for now tier. It's that tier of, yeah, they're our franchise quarterback, but things could very easily change within the next 2 years. If, they could reach the teetering on the edge tier. They're not solidified in their spots like the guys above them are. It's Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and CJ Stroud. Now, I will say Stroud was one of the weirdest guys to place on this list of all of them. I think this is where he fit in the best. Could have been in the why are they going backwards tier, but like the why are we going backwards tier?
We know the answer.
Is guys who have oddities in their play that are younger. CJ Stroud's like, he's going backwards because everything else around him has gone so far backwards. But this tier is like, you're fine with it, but you always kind of have that eye out. You're always looking at someone else. Now, Dak is probably the best of this tier just in terms of like performance, but you have to have that eye out because he's in his early 30s and his injury history of late has been concerning. 3 of the last 5 years, he's obviously had a major injury, caused him to miss time. So that's why I put him in this one.
And outside of CJ Stroud, all these guys are very highly paid.
Yep.
That's also why they are riding with them long term, because they are contractually tied to these guys. I'd say they each have their own issues which holds them back from being like franchise legends. Like with Brock Purdy, I think it's just like he doesn't have all the stars anymore, and also an injury history that is notable, that is very considerable.
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence, it's just been, please just put the ball where it's supposed to go. Just put the ball where it's supposed to go. And then with Jordan Love, it's just like, don't have the turnovers and bunches game. Don't have the 4 interception game. It's cool if you just throw 1. But it feels like with Stroud, I'd put Stroud in his own tier of like, just hang out with us while we try and figure stuff out.
Wait for the reinforcements.
Yeah, it's like CJ Stroud is that one friend that you have when you're at your like lowest. And it's like, hey, I'm gonna be here for you while you still like trying to figure all this shit out. That's CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is your quarterback, and you're just trying to figure everything else out around him so you can make the whole group better.
Dude, it's the scene from Game of Thrones. I've referenced this multiple times. The Battle of the Bastards, dude. Jon Snow with a big-ass sword in the middle of a field with an army running at him. You think it's the end for Jon Snow. Again, spoiler alert. And the reinforcements show up. Okay, that's like what we're all waiting for. It's the only reason why CJ Stroud's on this list. I mean, I was calling him Tan Brady, 2 years ago. The guy is special. And it's kind of like the Joe Burrow conversation we have, where it's like we are robbed of seeing Joe Burrow healthy, and it's, on the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it's the same thing with the Houston Texans, unfortunately. He is so damn talented. He's too talented to have this little of help and support.
All right, next tier. It's called the Franchise Legends tier. These are guys who are more likely not going to play their rest of their careers in this spot. But you could see a world in where the play slips off and you're willing to move on from, just because the baseline level of play is not elite. It's Jalen Hurts, it's Baker Mayfield, it's Jared Goff. All 3 of these fan bases will go to war for their respective quarterbacks. If you badmouth any of these quarterbacks online in any way, shape, or form, you will expect to hear a lot of pushback from it. They could do no wrong in the eyes of their respective fans, but they're not elite quarterbacks. They're just not. These are very good quarterbacks. They're not elite quarterbacks. But again, they're franchise legends. They're not Hall of Famers. They're franchise legends.
The way I see this tier is, in 10 years, somebody wearing that jersey is going to be like, oh, what a guy. Like,
yes.
You're going to pull up to the party in a creamsicle Baker Mayfield jersey, and it's like, oh, that guy knows ball. Like, that guy knows what's up. It's so funny with Baker and Jared Goff. Both were reclamation projects. And in a way, Jalen Hurts was. He was a second-round pick. And when you are a guy that was counted out, when you are a guy that has risen beyond the expectations placed on you when you first got there, that ingratiates yourself into that fan base, into that culture. Jalen Hurts is such a Philadelphia Eagles quarterback because he was the second-round pick, because he was not supposed to be the guy, and that feels like the Philly underdog story. Jared Goff was like the afterthought in the Stafford trade and ingratiated himself well into Detroit, where now people are chanting Jared Goff at Tigers games. Like, that guy is like a legend in that city. So I think it also goes back to that. But like you said, all these guys are very, very good quarterbacks.
Yeah, I do love that they all have hero origin stories. Jalen Hurts bouncing around in college. Baker Mayfield, obviously, he lived at the Cleveland Browns facility, and then they kicked him out, which is awful. Jared Goff, they made a move from Los Angeles to Detroit. No offense to Detroit, but let's be honest, LA's pretty sick. And everybody counted all these guys out. And to your point, in 10 years, when we see somebody at a party wearing their jerseys, it's like, hell yeah, dude. I miss those days. And I think it holds true, especially for Jared Goff. Because when you're counted out in this league, and I mean, same thing could be said for Baker. He's been at a number of different places, and what an amazing story, his Rams tryout essentially in prime time. But Jared Goff is the one that's like statue quarterback, leans into the offensive line. He's exactly what they need, and he's so fun to watch. They are legends, all these guys.
All right, last tier. It's the they better retire in this jersey tier. It's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Jaden Daniels. He's obviously the youngest of that tier, but these guys, if they played in any other jersey, it would look like what Aaron Rodgers is doing right now in Pittsburgh.
Can we start placing bets on which one of these guys is least likely to retire in the jersey that they're in? Because
I love this.
My first thought was it's definitely Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I think that situation in Cincinnati is real rocky, and the only reason he is still there is because they're paying him a lot of money. But it just feels like something has got to change in Cincy, and you're obviously not changing the quarterback right now because he's incredible. Something's got to happen fast. So I think if there's any quarterback on that list that is least likely to retire in that jersey, I'd probably say it's Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, everyone instinctively just knows that. And it's not only because Joe Burrow, I mean, it's the Cincinnati Bengals just as a franchise. I mean, that is why. But after him, the only other one I could see is Lamar Jackson, just because of how a team like the Ravens operate, and that they will move on from the guy the way the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers, where it's like, hey, he's at the end of the rope. Hey, it's, hey, we can still get a first rounder for him, 2 first rounds for him.
Cold bleed shit right there, Mike.
Yes, the sort of the shield, the Ravens logo, it matters more than any single individual, even if Lamar Jackson, obviously a Ravens legend, that they would do, if they could get value for him, that they would do it at the end of his career.
It's like Peyton Manning with the Broncos, Tom Brady with the Bucs, Phillip Rivers with the Colts, Brett Favre with, the Vikings and the Jets. Who is it going to be? Okay. Because I feel like Josh Allen is a Buffalo Bill and they won't let him out alive ever. Lamar Jackson, I feel the same way though. And I feel like if Lamar seems like the type of guy who, if he's at the end of his rope physically and he can't play, like he's going to just go make $1 billion in marketing after football. Like, the game needs Lamar. You know what I'm saying? Mahomes, I'd love to think he would be a Chiefs legend, but like if Andy gets out, if Andy's gone,
no, just no. Don't even.
I'm just saying, bro. But okay, so the guy that I know it ain't going to be in the stripes forever is Joe Burrow, and I'm thinking about a guy like Sean McVay, who's like, I've taken a quarterback from the Midwest and made it happen out here in LA a couple times. So that would be cool. That could be cool.
I kind of want to say Jaden just because he's in his second year and anything can happen this early. But that's sort of banking on like things catastrophically going wrong in Washington. Whereas like this with Joe Burrow, like even with Patrick Mahomes, that feels a little more realistic, which is crazy to say that Patrick Mahomes may not finish his career as a Chief as being like one of the more realistic ones, but like
he'll go to the Niners. He'll do the reverse Montana, dude.
Yeah, it feels like Peyton at the end of the Colts run. Like,
you can never say never, obviously, with any of these guys. But all right, there's our quarterback tiers. Let's get a little Thursday night football preview and get out of here. Seahawks travel to Arizona to face the Cardinals. Cardinals 1.5 point favorites. 43.5 points is the over under. I give my obvious NFC West divisional game disclaimer every time. We don't know. NFC West, every single time. There never should be every single game should be a pick 'em. NFC West. I mean, the slight home favorite. Yeah, give it a slight home favorite because all of these teams always feel like they're on equal footing every time we see them play.
It really does. Like the NFC West, you never know what's going to happen. Never a normal game in that division.
Yes.
I kind of like the Seahawks in this one, as much as I've said the Cardinals are going to be very good. Not having James Conner and this being the first game without James Conner is going to be a big blow to this offense. And if the Seahawks can just play action the Cardinals to death, then Sam Darnold will actually make some throws downfield. But if the Cardinals can force him into obvious drop back situations, they have a chance at winning this game.
I love the Seahawks in this one. I love Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm going to dump some money on that one.
If Marvin Harrison Jr. cannot have a game against Tariq Woolen, he's never going to have a game.
Man.
If you can't make some contested catches against Tariq Woolen, you'll never make one. So that's what I'm looking for in this game. All right, let's get to the locks. Locks are sponsored all season long by Cash App. Making money moves should be easy, and that's why there's Cash App. It's fast, safe, and honestly just way more personalized than the other apps out there. It's not our locks. It's Kyle's locks. Kyle, who do you got this week?
Cam Scatterbo. Okay. This guy over yards. Got Jaxson Dart in there. How you take pressure off a young quarterback? You throw that backup running back in there. You give him the ball 25 times. This guy's going to be shaking his head and talking to himself on the way back to the huddle like he does since he was at Arizona State. Love Scatterbo. Chicago plus 1.5, 2 weeks in a row for the Chicago Bears offense. You have to prove it to yourself once that it can work in order to go do it twice. So let's go do it twice. Denver -7. Those are my locks.
All right, there you have it, our locks. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We will be doing our full preview of the weekend slate tomorrow, back on our regularly scheduled Thursday episodes. Until then, keep pushing.